Hello, beautiful human. Thank you so much for clicking on our interview with the Backstreet Boys. Pretty crazy to say that the Backstreet Boys were hanging out in my studio. It's nuts. It's the Backstreet Boys. Don't Go Breaking My Heart is their single. It is out right now. Listen to it if you haven't. It's a good song, and it's nostalgic, but it's also relevant. We're going to cover so much with these guys. We're going to talk NSYNC. We're going to talk, obviously, the story behind their current record and all their albums in the past. We dive deep. I think you're going to enjoy it. Please leave your honest feedback in the comment section below. We have a podcast, link in the description below, and I beg you, please subscribe. Okay, enjoy.
Let's do this. Zach Show.
Come on, Zach.
How you doing, Howie?
Nice to meet you, Howie.
Alrighty.
Wow.
Howie,
You sound good.
Okay.
Check,
Yeah.
1 2 1 2.
Hey. Just
good.
because I don't talk really loud, but I just want to know
You
that
can have lots
you
of
guys
fun.
can hear me.
Check 2.
Beautiful.
Much we can do.
Check 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Check 4.
Annoying as that.
I can give you.
And you guys
more.
want to get more coffee?
I feel like you're like naturally like the adult in the room. Like, you know,
He has his moments, though, believe me.
it's the two of you.
But no, he is definitely the adult.
This dude.
Hey.
Really?
Yeah.
We got Dan.
Well, the 3 oldest are sitting in front of you. The 2 youngest are in the back.
You know it.
How about that?
Heather, Dan.
Hi, what's up?
We welcome Nick Carter.
Hi.
We welcome Kevin. We
Thank
welcome
you.
AJ.
Hello.
We welcome Brian. We welcome Howie.
Yes.
Backstreet Boys in the studio.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
They're back.
Oh my God, we're back again.
Damn.
Can you-
We're back. All right.
all right.
All right. We got to switch it up.
How many people on a daily basis, or how many people today alone, have gone to you? Backstreet's back. All right.
A lot. Every news article I see is
Quite a
that.
few.
Every news article.
It's like Backstreet's back. All
Backstreet's
right,
back.
Exclamation point.
Again.
But how does that make you feel? I mean, you guys have like those couple words have really etched itself into the history of pop culture.
It works for us.
You know, 25 years when we came out with that song a long time ago, we kind of were like trying to do Manifest Destiny.
There you go. There you go.
Get it?
Manifest.
But now it's our curse.
Except for when they think we've been gone
Yeah.
for like a long time. And like we've been going 25 years nonstop. So it's like
Yeah.
Backstreet Boys never left.
No.
We've been here.
Don't
all
call
the
it a
time.
comeback.
It's a trick.
We've been here for years.
But it has been a minute since we've gotten new music. Don't Go Breaking
Absolutely.
My Heart.
5
It's
years.
only been 5 years.
since we dropped a new single.
Between times.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
But
Pay
let's
the
be
bills.
honest, when we dropped that last single, it didn't have the oomph and the buzz that we have
Big.
currently. Like, there's a lot of buzz out there right now.
It had
Can I say
legs.
that?
What do you think is giving you that buzz, and why was now the right time?
I think Vegas contributes a little bit to it. You know, we've been out there for over a year now. Had
I
a
think
lot
that
of shows.
helped. I think our collaboration with Florida Georgia Line last year, that single, which went #1 on country radio.
AJ likes to say when we did "This Is the End" with Seth
Yeah,
Rogen, that
that's-
really kind of kicked it off.
That kicked it off. That was the jumping off point.
Resurgence of the 90s.
So thank
What,
you,
is it coming
Seth.
back?
Thank you, Seth, for taking a chance on us, buddy.
It was 100 right moves.
And you know what? It's good timing. Good timing. I mean, I think good music goes a long way. And, we're fans of good music. Hopefully we've been doing good music for a long, long time that,
You have.
people are still listening to. But it's nice to give somebody something new, and it's nice to sing something fresh because it kind of gets old singing, "Tell me why,"
No, it doesn't.
It never gets old.
It never gets old. Come on now.
For us, it doesn't get old.
He's
For
like,
you guys,
No, it doesn't.
Well, I mean, when you're doing the Vegas residency, you're doing show after show after show, and these are songs that you've already performed thousands of times. How do you keep it fresh?
Millions.
A lot of times, actually, it's when we get to design a new show and new choreography or new music renditions. That's kind of like what really it excites it for us. Just finding new ways to make it fresh. But every single time we get on stage and we're performing, honestly, I really don't get tired of it. And our fans, you could see on their faces that they love those songs. So then it kind of just energizes us.
They definitely give us the energy. Seeing it on their faces, seeing them, taking a trip down memory lane with us, bring them back to memories that they had in their youth, what music does for people and stuff like that, is as well as sometimes I think just looking at each other and the fact that we sang this song so many times that if one person messes up, it just totally adds like a breath of fresh air. We constantly cracking up on each other. It just, kind of keeps it fresh.
You forgot the words.
You want the F up.
Yes, you do. It's
Yeah,
like
we-
we're all
we-
taking
yeah, we
bets
like it.
pre-show. Who's going to mess up tonight? So, yeah.
Who's winning so far? Who messes up the most?
Probably lead.
Own it. You can own
Over
it.
under.
But like,
Save
is
the
it,
trouble.
is it a mess up because you get so comfortable?
Yeah. That's the times when you don't like take those butterflies that come into the stomach and say like, I ain't gonna listen to that today. I got this, And then all of a sudden, next thing you're like, you bust your butt on stage or whatever. But
One of the Backstreet Boy fans, I mean, you have so many, obviously. One of them who knows every dance move you've ever done, all the choreography, they reached out and they wanted to know about like the remixes, right? Because how you build your set list is pretty unique. And you mentioned it, that keeps it fresh. Who takes lead on that? Or is it purely collaborative?
It's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, for sure.
With our production designers, our directors, and our
director.
shows, and and us as well. We'll get inspired by a song we hear, whether it's an EDM song or something out there from a country version. Those kind of things inspire us to kind of try something new.
Like for is it Backstreet's Back? We dropped that Madonna groove in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got 4 minutes to say in the world. That one.
that was actually
Back
from the last tour.
Was it last
but
tour?
we
Yeah.
kept it in for the
Yeah.
Vegas.
I remember
Yeah.
talking with Richmond about
So
that.
we'll drop different beats underneath our original melody and beats, and we'll throw little remixes on it to freshen it up. But we don't want to steer too far away from the original because, as a fan of music, like when I go see Prince, I don't want to hear a remix of Purple Rain. I want to hear it like it was on the album, right? So
Yeah.
rest his soul, we miss you. But yeah.
Don't Go Breaking My Heart. What was it like working with Rabel on it? And how did this record actually come to be? Like, did they present it to you finished? Did you hear the lyrics and add to it? Tell me the story.
We picked a song out of a hat, and it just happened to work.
So Rabel was a writer on
He's
that.
so talented.
Yeah, I love his voice. He was singing the demo.
Okay.
But
That was cool.
the producer, Stuart Crichton, came to see our show in Vegas, and he was like, guys, I'm inspired. After the show, he's like, I'm so inspired. I'm going to go back into the lab. And so then I don't know, 3 weeks later, he sent us 4 songs, and it was one of them. And immediately this one
Stood
I was
out,
like,
yeah.
it stood out to us.
What was it that stood out?
Well, number one, the melody. And then in the second verse, when that groove drops in,
It's dynamic.
and I love I'm an '80s kid, so I love the synth sounds that are on it, and and the hook. It was just I wanted to hear it again immediately, and that's always a good sign.
That synth to me, I was like totally in this Stranger Things mode. I was like watching like episode after episode every night, and I was like,
It reminded
this is Stranger Things. It's on the soundtrack.
Subliminal messages.
Submit it somehow or another.
But I mean, too, honestly, like when we hear demos or we hear song submissions or somebody writes something, like we've been doing this for so long that it's easy for us to immediately like connect and know like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that can be us, like without reaching too far, without being something that we're not. We want to evolve, we want to grow, we want to challenge ourselves, but at the same time, it's, we have been doing this for so long that it's like, it's easy to hear yourself on, we want to make it better than the demo, like you were talking about last time. You hear that demo and it's like, sometimes you get demo-itis, or you want it to sound just like that, but when you put 5 different voices on it, it's going to sound inevitably like the Backstreet Boys, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But with Don't Go Breaking My Heart, it's one of those things. You hear that hook and you just know that we're not trying to be anything that we're not. We're just kind of in our own lane.
Yeah.
But the production is current enough to sound like what everything else sounds like, but even different than today's radio.
But
So,
it's still
a good hit.
nostalgic too.
Yep.
In a
we've
way.
heard some people
in a
say
way.
that.
Yeah, in a way.
Very much transported.
Yeah.
How many records exist that you put your voice on that have never seen the
Oh
light
my
of
God, we
day?
there's
can't
a
even
bunch.
count them.
Hundreds.
There
Can't even
is,
count
But you probably see them on
countless.
YouTube.
Yeah, there is countless.
Because we write as well. We write as well, and sometimes we co-write, and then sometimes people just send us songs. And like Brian said, you never know. Like you have an instinct. I think we would sound good on this, and then you get 5 guys on there, and it's like, this song's more for a solo artist.
Yeah.
And then and it didn't work out, but this one totally.
I think that's also why we waited so long, is because we were waiting for the right song to come around, and it takes time for that, because we're analyzing it and we're trying to make sure that it's right, that it fits our voices, that we're a 5-part harmony group. We need to be able to sing on the chorus together. Like we can drop it on the dime, anywhere and just sing whatever, a harmony, 5-part harmony on it. So that's what we want to try to do with the songs that we record.
How do you guys decide who sings which part of this song?
This used to be way.
We fight.
Back in the day, it obviously was much easier. I think. Back in the day, there was obviously a formula that worked because we were still trying to kind of find ourselves as individuals, as a group, and it was kind of pretty much up to the producer who was going to sing what. And then obviously, once we worked with these producers like Max Martin and these guys for multiple albums, they knew, okay, already for this song, I can hear Howie singing this verse or Brian doing this bridge or whatever. So now it's become kind of, working with these brand new producers that we've never worked with, like, guys like, Stuart. We each kind of went in and just sang the whole song from top to bottom. And then we just kind of relinquished control and say, okay, whatever your vision is, whatever's going to sound the best and make the record the biggest and best that it can be, you make the final call. And it's actually been somewhat of a smooth process, actually. It's just, go in, sing everything down, and then just let it be. That's why I said someone. I said someone.
Here's the real deal, to be honest. We say, let the producer do his job. Then once here we go, oh, hell no. That's not right. Each of us need to.
That's why I said someone.
Then we go back to saying, okay.
Voice on that song?
Then we eventually go back and say, okay, after fighting enough about it, then we say, okay, let the producer do his job, like we said initially.
But is that scary? Because what you said was right. Like, you started with no control, really, and you were kind of told what to do, and then you had more control. And obviously, there's albums that exist throughout your journey that obviously are totally you and less producers. But is it scary kind of giving that control back? Because at the end of the day, the world has gotten to know the Backstreet Boys, but nobody knows the Backstreet Boys like you guys know the Backstreet Boys.
But there's something that obviously works. Like, going back to Millennium, Black and Blue, there was a formula that worked. And, our most recent record, In a World Like This, was the first record that we really were hands-on with. We wrote a good chunk of the album, or co-wrote, A&R'd the project, did everything kind of all in-house. And we all kind of said going into this brand new, album process that we kind of want to go back to what, was. Because if you look at how things happen and, how the, albums kind of transpired, it obviously worked back then. Back with I Want It That Way and I'll Be the One and Larger Than Life and, Quit Playing Games. There was something that obviously worked. So why not go back to that?
You have to have trust in the producer.
Songs that I wrote, AJ, I love that.
You have to have, honestly, you gotta have trust. You gotta have trust in the people who are producing your music. And I think we got that from Stuart. Yeah, we're a unique situation. Sorry to interrupt you, Heidi, but we're unique because we're almost like different colors in a palette. You know what I mean? That someone could play with and paint that picture. Because we all have unique voices that are different, but also special in itself.
It's almost like a fine line you have to ride because as we first started, obviously, we were very fresh and new at all this. So having the guidance of the producers, the label, all that stuff was very beneficial. We didn't know. We were just developing. But then as you start growing as an artist, obviously you have your own legs that you want to stand on. You have your own voice that you want to put out there. So that's where I think a lot of artists will say, okay, well, now we want to take control of it and do what we want to put out there so that way we feel satisfied expressing what we feel in our hearts. But at the same time, I think we've been mature enough to say, okay, you know what? There's a balance of it. Let's definitely have a voice in what we're going to put out there, but at the same time also respect those who do this professionally and have the ear that sometimes we may not be, since we're so close to it,
collaboration,
able to hear.
And that is so hard after 25 years. I mean, and that's the truth. You got to you check your ego at the door, and that can be hard. But we communicate with each other, and we're able to make it work.
I am so sorry to interrupt the interview. I'll just be real quick. Get Quip. It's the best toothbrush out there. I'm obsessed with this thing. It sticks right to my mirror. It's timed out perfectly, so I always know that I'm brushing the right amount. They send me refill heads like every month, and that's not just for convenience, it's for my health. Plus, Quip is an amazing toothbrush. It's electric, and it starts at only $25. $25 for really the best toothbrush you will ever buy. I got it for Dan, Heather, my mom, my sister, my dad. Oprah uses this toothbrush, so why shouldn't you? Quip, seriously, it's the best. Go to getquip.com/sang, and you're going to get a toothbrush starting at $25, and your free refill pack will follow. That's right. You'll get something free if you go to getquip.com/sang. Try out the Quip toothbrush. You'll love it, but I really want you to tell me what you think. So use it and get back to me. Getquip.com/sang. Okay, back to the interview.
With Don't Go Breaking My Heart, did you ever think about changing the name so it didn't have to compete with Elton John?
We almost had Baby before.
Yeah.
But
That would be a long title.
Been a
Baby,
long
don't
time.
go breaking.
It's so funny how many people like will be doing interviews and someone will bring up the song and they'll sing it. But that song was like 40 years ago? I don't even know.
Loved that
No,
song.
and it's a great song. It's a
we
great
had
song.
the 45 when I was little, like 6 years old, and I played that thing over. And
But isn't
over
it crazy
and over.
how long, like people still remember it? That's incredible.
what would have been
you know?
cool is actually on the new album that he did, we had all the other artists remake his songs. If we would have actually remade Don't Go Breaking My Heart, that would have been kind of a cool little story.
Maybe we will.
Listen, guys,
See?
it's all relative, okay? Music comes around, it's in cycles.
There's only so
It's
many
just like
lyrics.
fashion.
Yeah.
There's only so many chord progressions that you can put together
Yeah.
and write a song.
Only so many words in the dictionary. y'all.
One more thing I wanted to add to the conversation about who sings what and how do we divide that up. A lot of times too, if you have too many voices, like if you switch like literally every 3 or 4 lines to a different lead singer, it can pull you out of the song. Like it takes you out of it because you're like just getting used to that tone and that voice, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're on to who's this? So sometimes you have to keep that in mind as well.
That's like Bone Thugs and Harmony.
But with you guys, right? It's about how they all flow together and how they match.
Yeah,
So,
and who sounds good coming after the other, whose tones match the best.
exactly. And there was a set when you were making your earlier albums. You knew your parts, like as you would break down the song, because you knew how those vocals would be layered and flow into one another.
Exactly.
You understood
yeah.
it. There was a science behind it.
In harmonies, AJ and I normally cover the baritone, bass, mid-low harmony parts, and Howie and Brian and Nick do the higher parts.
We had a musician, Charlie Puth. Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah,
Friends with him.
What'd you say, Charlie?
Charlie Puth. Heard of him? He's a really good guy, and one of the first interviews we ever did together, he brought up one of your records, or the way you would create records. If you kept it, in a range, right, that both men and females could sing at concerts, like is what inspired how he makes some of his songs.
Yeah.
Because you guys keep it within a certain range so
Yeah.
everybody can sing it, and it
That's
doesn't
true.
sound like crap at a concert.
That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Makes
No,
sense.
if the male and females can sing along, then you're in the ballpark there.
Do you remember your first day in studio with Max Martin?
Yep.
Yeah.
What, can you describe it for me?
Yeah.
There was a lot of cigarette smoke. I thought my eyes were going to burn out because he was chain smoking like a fiend.
Him and Dennis.
Him and Dennis Pop, rest his soul. So we went to Sweden. It was our first time out of the country together as a group, and we went over there. We were over there for about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Like 2 weeks, yeah.
Sharon.
The first time we went over at Sharon Studios in Stockholm, and we were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and we knew the success that they had from Ace of Base.
And
that
Robin.
record had
Robin.
just in the U.S. alone, I think it had sold 24 million albums. The Ace of Base record,
I had it.
and we were bumping that. I was bumping that.
Oh, wow.
And then so Dennis he was a DJ in the clubs in Stockholm, and that's the background that he came from. And I just remember hearing the demos the first time we heard and the drum loops that he had under that. And I just remember I was like, this is funky. This is gonna be. I was so excited. I was so excited, and just figuring out who's gonna sing what, because they were getting to know us. The first time we met them both, it was at a restaurant, and they were sitting outside. So it was a street side restaurant that had outside seating right on the edge of the street. And we walked up and introduced ourselves, and we sang a cappella for them right there. We wanted to impress them. We're like, hey, we came to work. Here we are, and we dropped some like Boys to Men on them or something.
Nice.
Well, because that's
Shy or Jodeci or.
That's what you are. You're not a boy band. You're a harmony group.
Well, that's what we like to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then somehow we got boy band thrown on there.
We're
but it's
a
all
man
good.
band.
Call us whatever
You are
you
a
want.
man
Just
band.
call us.
Just give us a call.
Give my manager's number.
We'll do bar mitzvahs,
Agent William Morris.
What do you learn from your first 2 albums that sticks with you today?
Our first 2 albums?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's go back.
I mean, it depends. Because
Stacking harmonies, production, vocal production.
You know what? I would say what
Sharing is caring.
What's interesting is like back in like the 90s, so like late 90s, if you were able to have a sophomore record, that was like
Huge.
that was it. And for us to be able to have a sophomore record, which was our biggest record, which was Millennium, that to me kind of personally made me feel pretty confident that things are going to be okay and that it's not just a flash in the pan, because you just don't know. I mean, when we first tried to launch here in the US, you know, it was grunge, it was Nirvana, it was Dre, it was Snoop. There was no space for anyone like us. And so we spent years over, you know, Europe, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. And then during that time, the Spice Girls and Hanson really kind of opened the doors here. And we came back and things changed drastically. You know?
I think for me, it wasn't necessarily the music itself and the process. It was the promotional part of it. It was all the things that went into actually breaking that record and how hard it actually was, because there was no social media. There was none of that internet. There was nothing. And we had to literally go and visit every single radio station, visit every single programmer and shake hands and, you know,
Dude, you did all around the world in 100 hours.
all those things. But it was a grind. There was times when we were literally, jumping on a plane, going to one country and then another one and then another one in the same day. You know what I mean? And not getting any sleep. And it was a grind. It really was.
Did you guys keep like a journal through the whole thing? Did anybody take notes besides mental
pictures?
I have a piece of paper and I have the date written on it. Signed our first recording contract today, and it's dated and everything. That was in 1994.
That's beautiful. It's really cool.
I will never forget.
Damn it,
we had
AJ, can I answer
just
a
done.
question?
Sorry. Just before it like leaves my head, because I just watched this like 2 or 3 nights ago. It was 1999, I believe, and we had just won an MTV award, or maybe 98, and we were doing the press room after, and the very last question went to you, Kev, and someone said, "What do you think about this thing called the internet?" And you said, I think it's got a shot. And then that, you know,
is that all he said?
Yeah, I think it's got a shot. It's crazy because
should have invested.
We should have invested in Yahoo, Google. Dang it!
That's a story.
He called it.
No, I was just gonna answer. You know, back to your question was like, what did we learn from the first 2 records? Is that like when you guys do a radio interview and it, you know, it gets recorded or it's live or whatever and it's sent out, it's like that's it. You know, the whole world hears it.
Insane.
And for me personally, it was like once your voice is on that album, like we didn't really know the impact. We had hoped and wished for success, and we wanted to make a career out of this, and we've done a pretty damn good job of that, being 25 years, and that makes a lot of compromises and learning along the way. But going back to those first couple of vocals when you deliver them in the studio and then you hear them today 25 years later, it's like that's what it was, you know. And then you're still hearing that same kid that you're a grown man now that was delivering those vocals. And so it's, for me, it's just I don't know, not to get too deep, it's just one of those things that once it's on that record, it will forever be that way. And and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of monumental in a way, but at the same time, you're like, as you grow as an artist, you're like, man, I want to beat that vocal. I can do it better now. Or, damn, it was pretty good back then. I hope I can do it as good as that.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like a time
that's what I
capsule.
think about.
Yeah.
I
I
know
think
it's
about-
trapped in the moment in time.
When you're I think a lot of artists go through the same head trip about as when you're first coming out and you want to just get out there as fast as possible, especially back in those days. And you're constantly feeling like you're just paying the dues for that, finally to get that record deal, to get that first single out. And I think for us, I mean, even for us, the way it happened, like it happened internationally first for us before we came back to America. But I think looking back on it, it's like, I'm glad it happened that way because we really had a chance to get to know and learn and, you know, study and make, you know, create our craft that we had to, not the right word, craft, but we perfected our craft to be able to finally put a record out, because I think a lot of times artists don't realize that once they put that first record out, like Brian's saying, it's out there.
Forever.
And a lot of times, and if you have success, it's full steam.
So we were able to make our mistakes.
There you go.
Is what he's saying.
That was on trial run.
Yeah, but those records are timeless and they're gonna last forever. You know, seriously. Those albums.
Well,
will
is
be
there anything
around.
from back in those days that you guys are embarrassed about, like outfits or hair?
Oh, yeah, man.
Oh, of course. Dear God.
What's odd is that we were embarrassed about certain things in the late 90s, and now they're coming back.
Now
again.
it's all
And I'm like,
Some of them.
Yeah.
Now it's all.
Some of them.
Not a lot of them.
Some of them have made a comeback and are not going anywhere anytime soon, which is kind of nice. So
yeah.
we were trying to be trendsetters back then, and I guess it's now still working. So
Well, AJ, you do look like Guy Fieri in the Drowning music video.
Yes, well, yes,
You nailed
yes, I
that
do.
one.
I see. You know what? I was already planning ahead. You know, I'm not that good of a cook. So sorry, I'm still learning. Grilled cheese, got it down, done.
What do you think of the boy bands that are out there making music today? You know, you look at K-pop and you look at BTS.
Those kids are dancing and like they're performing, and I appreciate that, you know. And look, they're, you know, when One Direction was out and they were doing their thing, and other boy bands, you know,
They
it was
were
just
great.
it was a different era. You know
They
what
were
I mean?
great,
It's-
but they didn't dance.
they weren't performing.
Right,
They
yeah,
weren't putting on a show. We were brought up with like it's like a you know
Theater.
the full package. You know, like the
New Edition.
a new edition. The you know the Janet Jacksons, the Michael Jacksons, the you know the performers like putting on a full show. And I think that's what's carried us into now, because not many people can do what we do.
It's a
if you go to
different
Vegas, you
time.
can see that.
Yeah, it's a different time. You know, for the 90s, it was all about over the top kind of, you know, if you think about Hype Williams videos and all these different things, it was about big, big, big. And the kind of generation over the past probably 5 or 6 years, it's gone more back to kind of simplified. But still, we've never changed the way we are. Like, we've always stayed in our own lane. And to kind of piggyback on what he's saying, that's exactly, I feel, why we're still here and still relevant and still moving forward, because we've never changed with the times. We've always stayed as who we are.
And
stayed true
and
to
that's
ourselves.
represented in the video. I think you can kind of
Oh,
see
for
that
sure.
too. You know, when we're dancing in this
Yeah.
music video, I mean, yeah, we're a little bit older, but you know, we realize who we are and we're performers, and I think people want to see that, you know, and so we embraced it and we delivered it for them.
So that
You
being
just got to stretch a little more before you dance now.
Yeah, basically.
Lots of ibuprofen.
Yeah, little.
A lot more
But it keeps you in shape.
Little.
Body in motion stays in motion.
Yeah.
There you go.
object
So-
at rest stays at rest.
That's right.
So would you guys say you're the greatest boy band of all time?
No, I wouldn't say that about ourselves.
I would say that about you.
You
Why
can
would
say it
guys-
all you want.
Why would you guys not say that?
He's a fan.
Well, I mean,
Well, that's a lot to live up to. I mean,
Yeah.
when
I
you
think
you've done a
but-
good
Yeah,
job.
but your accolades.
But we're real guys too. You know, that's the thing, and we're always going to be our worst critic. You know, if you look at sales and numbers, you know, that may be solidified in 140 million albums sold in a 25-year career. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But there's always, you know, we always
relative.
want to be better.
It's
It's always relative to where we're at that very moment. And when we sit right here, you know, we got a Vegas residency. We got our 10th album coming out later this year. We got a world tour that starts next year. I mean, that's going to be another 2 years down the road. We're going to look up and be together 30 years, and you know, and hopefully people are still saying that.
I think people.
that's-
I think
so
people
thank
are.
you.
I think people are fascinated by people who actually are artists or you know, sports stars, or people who can actually sustain a career and last a long time. And
Yeah.
and you know, if you look at like, okay, I use sports analogies, but you know, Tom Brady. You know, obviously everyone's like, wow, how does he do it? You know what I mean? And I'm not comparing ourselves to them necessarily, but I feel like having longevity was always our goal. It was
Totally.
always what we wanted. You know what I mean? And that's the hardest thing, you know, ever. You know, you're going to have these highs and you're going to have these lows. I mean, we have been riding the lows. You know, now thank God we're having like a #1 song, you know, everywhere. But, you know, people forget, you know, 5-6 years ago, you know, there was times when, you know, nobody even heard of us. So we would, Brian would talk about it all the time. We'd drive through a Burger King or something like that, and they'd be like, hey, are you Brian from the Backstreet Boys? And he's like, yeah, what are you guys doing? You know? And
Are you guys still
you know what I
together?
mean? Like,
I'm serious.
You guys
We
still
just-
together? You
we
guys
just
still
did
making music?
We just did a sold-out tour all over Japan.
Yeah.
We saw close to 700,000 people in like 8 shows in Japan in a matter of 2.5 weeks. Okay, and I fly home and I come in and I just want a burger. So I'm going through the drive-thru and the girl's like, hey, what are you doing now? I'm like, God.
because we're not getting played on radio,
I
basically.
was like,
Yeah.
I was in Tokyo yesterday morning.
She's like, you
know?
want a job?
Are you more tested as a group at your highs or at your lows?
tested?
Oh, definitely
Yeah.
the lows.
Tested?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely both because, if you're at your high,
That's a really good question.
If you're at your high, you obviously want to try to maintain that as best you can, and if you're at your low, you obviously want to try to rise up.
The thing about being at the low is that it's easy to quit when you're there. You know what I mean? It's easy to say, you know what, forget this. And I'm no disrespect to other people. I'm sure there's been other people in bands and stuff that have just been like, I'm done with this. I'm cool. There's nothing else going to happen from this. We don't look at it that way.
Yeah.
We are waiting for that next moment where we can strike again.
One moment.
It's like when I think of highs and lows, or I think of like, okay, like being relative, right? So if I would consider being on a high wave. Relative, you're being played on radio. You got an album out there that's in the top 10. You got a single in the top 10. That's being relative. Now, when you're relative, then everybody's looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's
Judging.
okay. Everybody's looking. Everybody's judging. Everybody's watching. Everybody's critiquing. You have all eyes on you. And then when you're maybe on a low, we're still touring. We're still selling out wherever, doing whatever, but you don't have all those eyes on you, and it's not as much pressure.
Yeah.
You're kind of under the radar, just doing your thing, and you're happy.
Which is nice.
Yeah. But being on that wave is nice too, but it comes with expectations and pressure and judgment and critiques, and
That is tough. That's hard.
I think it's really both. The way I look at it is you need the lows and you need the highs to balance that happy medium. I mean, now when you talk to the Backstreet Boys, you're talking to 5 fathers, 5 husbands. We have other things in life that mean
Priorities, yeah.
That mean just as much to us as our music, if not more. And that's a balance. You need those super lows of those moments, like Nick said, where you're like, man, just forget it. I just go away and disappear, and I don't need it. And I think we've probably all been through that at some point in our lives. But at the same time, when you get on that high and you have that number one song, and like today, and for instance today, all of our phones are blowing up from people that we haven't heard of forever.
Hey man,
oh
how you
my
doing?
God, hey,
Talked
what's
in a
up,
while.
dude?
I
And you're
showed
like,
Brian a text message today.
and I was like, oh, here we go again. But it's just that happy balance. I mean, it makes you, the successes and the defeats, they make you smarter, they make you more educated, and you just have a balance. You
and
can juggle it easier.
it's called a career.
Yeah.
When you have
Yes.
highs and lows, it's called a career.
roller coaster.
No, I know we don't have time, but can you guys give me like short answers and just run them through real quick?
We are long-winded, brother. Sorry.
I know.
There's 5 of us.
No, that's cool.
We'll give you short answers. We got it.
We got
Do you guys think you deserved a Grammy back in the day?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We've been nominated 7 times, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're like Susan
7
Lucci.
times.
Are you still surprised people debate Backstreet Boys and the NSYNC today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Backstreet,
Does it make you feel good that you got a Hollywood star in the Walk of Fame before them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna stop there and got the star period.
Up too late.
Before
Too late.
them,
That was-
after
but
them,
that was 5 years
it doesn't
ago.
matter.
Yes.
Yeah, not
Thank
now.
you for that.
Do you like the Vegas residency or world tours better?
Both.
Totally different.
Both.
Both.
We're
are right
missing
there.
the world tour right now.
Totally
Yeah.
different, though.
Are you gonna
I
go
miss
back on
being on a
that?
tour bus.
Okay. You have tour buses? I'm assuming you have private planes.
No.
No,
No,
we
I can't
never
afford
got
the private
that.
planes.
We never got that, but we got our buses.
Here's something. Listen, even when we were at our peak on top of the world, like selling out stadiums, we very rarely took private planes.
Yeah.
They're just very expensive,
Just
and we
because you
were
make
all
money, you don't
very
have to spend
frugal.
it.
And there's also
Very
so
frugal.
many of you, to be honest.
Yeah, and
Now
also
consecutive
too,
platinum members of American and Delta, though.
also too, we put a lot of money into our shows.
Yeah.
It's all the money went to our shows.
That's where it's going.
We couldn't afford the planes.
Are you okay with sharing your anniversary with marijuana, April 20th?
Yeah,
I
that's
love
fine.
that.
Kevin loves
I
it.
love
That's
that.
awesome. That's awesome.
I just want to say
420, baby. Every year.
your first concert is always very memorable, and you guys were my first concert in 1999.
Where at?
Awesome.
What city?
Awesome.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Excellent.
PA,
Philly,
Eagles,
man.
baby.
Philly's
All right,
been
fly
great
Eagles
to us.
Factory?
Which one?
Was it Electric
No, it was the
Factory,
first time you were in like the bigger one. Like I don't know what it's called.
It's probably
back then.
Millennium.
Millennium,
right?
It was
I think
the
so.
arena.
Yeah, it was the. It was. I think it was like one of your
Okay.
first arena tours.
Yeah.
Right on.
But do you remember the Electric Factory? You
Yeah,
know what
that's
we're talking
that's
about?
still. I didn't go to that. I was like 7 at the time.
Wow.
But yeah, no, it's still.
Thanks for
around.
making us keep it young, bro.
Sorry about that.
Don't Go Breaking My Heart is a single now. Backstreet Boys. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks again.
Thanks for having
Appreciate it, man.
Nick, I'm really happy you like that cat pillow.
I love the cat.
I really hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you did, please subscribe and also check out our podcast. There's a link in the description, and also comment and like and do things. Other interviews are on the screen somewhere, so click them. Thanks for watching.